What's up, everybody? This is Fishers of Men. The first chapter of the first book of the High Republic series has been released online. I just finished reading it, and it's okay, I guess. The whole thing kind of builds up to this inciting incident this article from Gizmodo Australia is talking about, so I want to talk a little bit about it. Obviously, you can see the title says the inciting incident of Star Wars' High Republic is a horrifying technological disaster. New war, same as the old war. We're so used to Star Wars' cyclical cycle at this point, we were just waiting for the High Republic to reveal some ancient evil or lingering secret Imperial force that could put this generation of Jedi at their peak to the test. Turns out, thankfully, that's not the case. What the Jedi are up against is much more fascinating. After the High Republic, initially set to kick off next month with the release of Charles Soule's The Light of the Jedi, was delayed until January 2021, we didn't expect to be hearing much about it for a while. But IGN has released the first chapter of Soule's novel, revealing what it actually is that sets into motion the plight of the frontiersman Jedi Knights 200 years before the Star Wars prequels. It's not some sinister evil in the Force, it's not even lawless pilots on the fringes of the Republic's reach. It's the Holdo maneuver to a magnitude made infinitely more horrifying? I'm just going to stop right there. My first thought when I was reading this, because I read this before I read the chapter that was actually released, my first thought was, oh great, look, more instances of outside information from books and other things being brought in to explain holes in the movies. They're probably going to use this series to explain why nobody uses the Holdo maneuver anymore, to explain how it's actually 1 in a million, or to make it some sort of war crime that even the Empire wouldn't commit. I don't know. That was my first thought, and I was very disappointed just automatically. Let's keep moving though. It'll kind of talk more about what actually happened. You'll have to head on over to IGN to read the full thing, but essentially Light of the Jedi opens with an unprecedented disaster the Republic suddenly finds its expansion programs dealing with. A passenger cargo freighter called the Legacy Run, attempting to avoid debris in a hyperspace lane, breaks up while still at light speed. Not only is everyone on board, mostly migrants venturing out into the frontier to start new lives, seemingly killed, the broken up wreckage of the Legacy Run begins to shunt out of lightspeed and into normal space, becoming screaming projectiles of mass destruction that can hit anywhere from the core worlds to the outer rim. Okay, so I'll stop there again. What actually happens in this chapter is they're in lightspeed, they're moving to a new place, and they get a notification saying that they're going to hit something in 10 seconds. But reading the chapter again, I see a problem. They never come out of hyperspace. The chapter specifically says, she saw the obstacle in their path with her fighter pilot's eye and instincts. Saw it advancing at incredible velocity, large enough that both her ship and whatever it was would be disintegrated into atoms, dust drifting forever through the hyperlanes. There was no time to avoid it. The ship could not make the turn. There was no room and there was no time. So right there, it says that she saw it. And I don't know if they're just trying to, symbolically, maybe she used the Force. I don't know. They're trying to say that she felt it. They mention her instincts. But it says that she saw it. Later it says that they slipped past the obstacle in their path, the thing shooting past their hull so close, Hedda was sure she felt its passing ruffle her hair despite the many layers of metal and shielding between them. So right there it makes it seem like she could see it as it was passing. So that doesn't make sense if they were in hyperspeed. And then obviously the thing breaks up because it's not designed to make the crazy maneuver that she made it do to avoid the debris. And like the article says, the wreckage shoots out into space, which, by the way, space is massive. The wreckage of one ship floating through space is not that much of a danger to the planets. Now, if they never left hyperspace, it'd be moving very rapidly, so I get how that could be an issue. Anyways, the destruction of the Legacy Run is the catalyst for a galaxy-wide disaster, Soule told IGN. In this moment of crisis, the Republic turns to Guardians of the Peace and Justice. In this moment of crisis, the Republic turns to the Guardians of Peace and Justice, the Jedi. The Jedi are well equipped to deal with the Legacy Run incident, and not just because they're psychic knights who could probably use a bit of that space magic to stop the killer debris projectiles from carving their way through planets. I mean, if they're moving close to light speed, that's going to be this doesn't really make sense. It's kind of weird that they would start the entire series off with a ship breaking up in a hyperspace lane. Which, by the way, hyperspace lanes do exist, so that lightspeed skipping thing from Rise of Skywalker is a problem still, because it should take time to get to other places in hyperspace, and it's very important that you actually calculate your route. These Jedi, unlike the ones we met in the prequels, aren't centralized in one single place. The Jedi of the High Republic have established outreach posts across the fringes of the Outer Rim, aiding colonists and safeguarding them as they attempt to start new lives, meaning they're all spread out and well suited to act as disaster relief specialists whenever one of these debris attacks actually happens. But it again brings me to another problem I'm seeing with this series, and I've thought this was a problem ever since they first announced it. It's set 200 years prior to the prequels. That's not very much time. Like, there are stories from the expanded universe that were thousands of years before the prequels. And they had established hyperspace lanes, they had the galaxy pretty much mapped out. I mean, they were still discovering things, but this is acting like there's a whole lot of space out there that they just haven't even tried to get to, and they're colonizing, and that's why the Jedi are all spread out. And it's really strange to me that they're only going back 200 years and trying to say, look at all these things that are so much different. 200 years is just not a lot of time. And I think that's going to be a problem going forward, because this might actually limit them in the way that they can go back from now on. You know, they're talking about how the Outer Rim isn't very much explored. And so if you say, like, Tatooine, which is in the Outer Rim, is discovered in this series, that means that you can't have anything on Tatooine before this series. So no Knights of the Old Republic, Revan going to Tatooine to find a star map, none of that. And that's kind of a weird problem. Now, obviously, they could probably get around it with some creative storytelling, but I don't really have high hopes as far as their creative storytelling goes. At least not at this point. So anyways, those are pretty much my brief thoughts on this first chapter of the new Star Wars stories that we're getting. I think that they have a few problems that I'm not sure if they will even know to address. I think the time period is too close to what we already know for everything to be as unexplored as they're making it. I think the idea of projectiles hurling towards planets from a spaceship that broke up in hyperspace is a cool idea, but at the same time, how it happened doesn't really make sense. And the idea that a few chunks of metal from a spaceship are going to be immensely dangerous to random planets out in the galaxy is kind of far-fetched to me. I mean, the Death Star blew up and probably scattered pieces in a whole bunch of directions, and nobody got bent out of shape over that. There are lots of ships that blow up in Star Wars, and this is never really something that's been mentioned before. That said, I mean, I could see it being a cool idea. It just depends on how it's executed. It all depends on execution. Also, I'm adding this on the end because I can't believe I forgot to mention it. I don't know how you take this and get to a whole High Republic series based on this catalyst, this event that is supposed to trigger things. It's all going to depend on execution, because I'm sure you can do it. I'm just not seeing how they're going to. So if Disney Star Wars can actually execute something well for once and write a good story, I mean, maybe this will turn out really well. I don't know. We'll see kind of where this goes. I am interested to see what the High Republic does. I am interested to see what Disney can do with an all-new set of characters that's not reliant at all upon what's been previously established. I don't have super high hopes, but I'll be reading some of it to see what they do. And I'll probably hop on and give you guys a summary when that happens. Anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I know there's thousands of other videos you can watch, and the fact that you watched this one is not lost on me. Let me know in the comments what you think. Like and subscribe if you want to. I am Fishers of Men, and I will talk to you later.